world's population speaks an Indo-European language as a first language.
4 to
And the majority of
6%.
humans on Earth can speak at least one Indo-European language, such as English, Spanish, or Hindi. These languages all come from Proto-Indo-European speakers of the Yamnaya and corded ware cultures. The Yamnaya people were indigenous to the Eastern European steppe during the Neolithic and early Bronze Age. Using their skulls and the latest genetic data about their appearance, the 3D artist Robert Molyneux was able to create realistic reconstructions of Yamnaya people for this video. So at last, we can get a good idea of what they look like. Before we look at those, let's talk about who the Yamnaya were. And what does Yamnaya mean anyway? The name Yamnaya was given to them by archaeologists and simply means related to pits, because these people buried their dead in pits, sometimes with stairs leading down into them, and usually with an enormous barrow, also known as a kurgan, erected on top of them. The dead and the pits are sometimes sprinkled with red ochre, such that the Yamnaya culture is also called the late ochre grave culture. And they're typically oriented west-east, lying on their backs with their knees raised, although later on their dead were sometimes buried on their sides. The high-status males are often accompanied by weapons such as stone axes and bronze daggers. Bronze weapons would have been elite status symbols, as stone was still widely used for many tools and weapons. While the first iron smelting is generally associated with Hittite Anatolia, from as early as 2000 BC maybe, there were actually experimental examples of smelted iron blades and pins from the early Bronze Age steppe centuries earlier. This shows Yamnaya blacksmiths were pioneering innovators, and that their historical significance is undervalued. Some of the barrow burials were accompanied by stone stelae, which give us some insight into the way these people looked. They are depicted with multiple weapons in their belts, or with shepherd's crooks, sometimes wearing tunics and sandals, other times naked, except for a belt, and shaping their beards into points, just as the Vikings did. At least 300 stelae have been found in Yamnaya and catacomb barrows in the North Pontic steppes, usually reused as grave pit covers. It is impossible to say whether these stelae represent gods or ancestors, or whether these people even thought that distinction was meaningful. The stelae tradition continued on the steppes among Iron Age Scythians and medieval Turkic hordes for a long time afterwards. The grave fields of Yamnaya barrows are mainly found in the river valleys, while barrows in the open steppe are less common and date to a later period, perhaps when attitudes to the steppe were changing and the Yamnaya people sought to claim portions of it, using the barrow as a territorial marker. The barrow so typifies the Yamnaya people that some call them the Kurgan people, a convention established by Maria Giboutas, and Kurgan means barrow. The barrows spread with Indo-European languages, such that ancient Greeks, Celts, Vikings, Slavs, Anglo-Saxons, Scythians and others preserved the custom for thousands of years after the Yamnaya disappeared. Archaeologist Arlin Frinculiesa wrote that the Yamnaya barrow seems a monument and at the same time a representation of the ideological power of this intrusive group. The establishment of lineage could ensure the passage in time and space of the unity of tradition and the relevance of ideology.
It's pretty.
At the top of the social pyramid stood a male figure symbolically endowed with the power of representing the continuity, stability, cohesion and unity of society. The homogeneity of this funerary phenomenon was visible for more than half a millennium, and preserved the same coordinates until the end of the evolution of this tradition. We can assume that heredity, descendants, was an important landmark in the Yamnaya society. The culture was preceded by other archaeologically and genetically similar ones, such as Sredni Stog, Repin culture around the Don, and further to the north, toward the Middle Volga, the Falinsk culture. The skulls of people around the Volga in the late Stone Age are very robust. If anyone has a skull like this today, then you had better hope he is in prison, because he is likely a dangerous man. Yamnaya skeletons are not quite as robustly built, nor their skulls typified by such robust features, but they are still pretty robust. Look at the chin on this Yamnaya guy's skull. He almost reminds me of Giga Chad. The Yamnaya spread rapidly across the Pontic-Caspian steppes between about 3,400 and 3,200 BC. Then from 3000 BC to 2500 BC, it pushed westward into Romania.
After 800
and Hungary.
yards, cross the
David
roundabout,
Benton, a
second
renowned
exit,
expert of Indo-Europeans,
A15.
notes that Yamnaya settlements are limited to the region west of the Don River in Ukraine. But the eastern Yamnaya territories, east of the Don in South Russia, are devoid of settlements, and that this is most likely because the eastern Yamnaya were more nomadic, living out of wagons and tents. The Yamnaya expanded northeastward up the Volga and also west towards the Carpathians and the area north of the Danube in modern Romania as far as Transylvania, and also further west even into the plains of Hungary. Despite
Cross the
being
roundabout,
genetic,
second exit,
very
A15.
homogeneous, the skull type varies among Yamnaya people, with northeastern Yamnaya towards the Volga exhibiting dolichocephalic skulls, while Yamnaya nearer to the Black Sea are brachycephalic, meaning they have rounder skulls. Males and females are typified by straight fronts,
clown don't know how to
broad
drive round
faces,
a roundabout.
prominent nasal bones, and straight jaws. The males have prominent brown ridges.
Must be fucking hard
The east
for these car drivers to go round roundabouts and not indicate.
Not only in their skulls, but also in the impressions of
Fucking
cultivated
clowns.
grain found in western Yamnaya pottery, which are absent in eastern Yamnaya.
Yeah, well, that's boring. So,